What am I gonna do this morning?
Howdy folks, it's Nito with AP2020 Outdoors. Welcome to the AP2020 Outdoors Outdoor Shooting Range. Howdy folks, it's Nito with AP2020 Outdoors. This is Season 1, Episode 13, AP2020 Outdoors Podcast. I got a special guest, Butterbean from the Hammertime Talk Forum. Steve Davis, one of the owners of Hammertime, is a no-show. He's probably got a machine broken. Anyways, no worries. Butterbean, how you doing, man?
About half. How are you?
Half, huh? That's better than none.
Well, if I ever get above half, you call the law. There's some bad stuff going to happen.
All right, good deal. So, anyways, I guess just current events. Did you get a chance to check out the solar eclipse yesterday, or did that interest you at all, or not?
It did not. I loaded a load of DDGs, and I closed my curtains and went to bed and let all the crazies clear off the road so I could truck.
What are DDGs?
It's just dried distiller's grain.
Oh, okay.
It's corn's what it is, dried corn anyway. I haul it up to a dog food plant, and they make the ingredients for Blue Buffalo dog food.
Oh, all right. Sounds good. So Steve Davis, the owner of Hammertime, he suggested that I get you on. Steve already been on one of my previous podcasts. So I guess just to get the intros out of the way. So where are you from?
I'm from Indiana. I live just north of Terre Haute, right on the Indiana-Illinois state line.
All right, so we're neighbors.
Yeah, yes, sir. Just a state away. So
yeah. So what's your background with Hammer Bullets? I mean, we're both mutually. You're newer. I'm newer than you. I just started getting into Hammer Bullets about a year ago.
I've shot. I was a cup and core guy, and then I finally switched over to some copper solids back around, I don't know, 2012. I started getting into the monos, and I had really, really good luck with Barnes. I was a Barnes believer, and Doug Dewey on long range hunting is a very good friend of mine in Texas. He kept telling me, man, you need to shoot hammers. And I'm a creature of habit. I'm like, I don't need to shoot hammers. Barnes are working fine. And he just kept on me. And I said, well, I'll try him. And I had a 300 Winchester short mag. And I got the 124 Hammer Hunters. And I spooled them up, and they were running like 38, 45. Oh yeah, dude. And I was hooked. So it took me, it was a sharp learning curve, loading the hammers for me, because I push everything to the max. But once I finally figured out my method, I was hooked. And I've run them in everything I shoot now. I mean, I don't shoot anything else. I gave all my cup and core bullets away and all my Barnes bullets. I say that I've still got some 175 SMKs for the 308 for a NATO round, but other than that, I shoot strictly hammers, and I load for all my family here, and they're all shooting hammers because that's all I load, so they're stuck with it.
Right. So what's your thoughts on the design of the Hammer bullet? Because if we kind of step back, because I used to shoot Barnes bullets as well. In fact, I still got some original Barnes, the X bullets when they first came out. And those original Barnes all copper monolithic bullets, those were literally, they had no driving bands, no relief surfaces whatsoever, And
no, they were almost a solid.
Yeah, they were pretty much a solid. The X bullet, and then people realized that because of the copper and the hardness of copper relative to a traditional cup and core, lead core copper jacketed bullet. There are two downsides. You were getting excessive pressure at elevated powder charges, and you were getting excessive fouling. So then whoever figured out to cut some relief grooves, in the all copper monolithic bullets, that was the first, I would say the first generation or the second generation. And then I think Steve's design, what do you think about that radius he's got in his design? Because I'm just, be honest with you, I'm kind of new to this whole hammer bullets game, and I'm still not 100% convinced on the reduced pressures, but there's been 2 loads I've loaded up, and I'm starting to become a believer. Just to remind you, later on in the video we'll talk about a 4570. But what's your thoughts on the technology?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've got a machining background somewhat, and I was skeptical when I first seen it, but their design and once again, this is my opinion, and you can take it for what it's worth. Right now, their design is the top of the heap, and I'll get with you later, or I'll come over, or you can come over. But anyway, their PDR grooves are just their bullet design is hands down. Right now, it's the top of the heap. In my opinion, it's the top of the heap, and the drag reduction is so significant. I mean, I really can't find the words to tell you. I mean, it's unreal how slick those bullets are. That's I'm pushing I've got a 338 edge, and I'm a small caliber, light and fast, small caliber guy, but I've always wanted a 338, and I built a 338 edge, and I'm running the 175 grain Hammer Hunter at 3950.
Wow. What powder and what's a 338 edge for the folks that aren't familiar with it?
It's a 300 rum, blowed
Okay.
out. It straightens the walls, and it's almost an improved cartridge, like a 40-degree AI cartridge.
Okay.
But it'll hold 100 and some grains of powder. But I'm running H4350 with it, and I mean it's a safe load. It's not crater and primers or nothing. But I mean, if you think about that, I mean you're talking about a 338 diameter bullet, 175 grain bullet at 3,900 feet a second.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
freaking flying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you do the energy on that. That's probably well over 4,000 foot-pounds of energy. I'm
Yeah,
just
and
guessing.
that's something else, with hammer bullets. That now that you've touched on that, everybody, I mean, and with there's a crowd of us uh, that have really dug in deep with hammers, and you have to clear your mind with hammers. The energy numbers, it's a fluid number, and it's always been a fluid number, even with cup and core bullets. And there's so much that can change it. With hammer bullets, we concentrate on impact velocity. We don't even look at energy numbers because they mean nothing to me. If the HHTs, I think it's 1,700 feet a second is the minimum velocity on those, and everything else is 1,800 feet a second. That's how I put everything together. If where I'm hunting out here, I can look out my front window right here, and the deer come down fence rows. They travel these fence rows. It's 500 yards to that fence row. So my my mule, I call it the mule, my 300 rum. I run the 124 out of it, the 124 Hammer Hunter at 4250. Okay, that's
Right.
100. Yeah, that's freaking smoking. But anyway, at 500 yards, at 400 yards, it's hold on here. At 500 yards, I hold across its back. But I look at the energy numbers. It's good to 700 yards. So that's a 700-yard gun to me.
Right.
That's how, and I don't care what I don't care what the energy numbers look like. I'm looking at feet per second at a known distance, and that's how I set everything up. And a lot of us are doing that now. So it's just when it runs out at 1,800 feet a second, that's it. You don't shoot any farther than that with it.
Right. And just kind of allude, because we kind of like skipped over this because we both assume it. But there's a good talk forum on the internet. It's called Hammer Talk, I think .com, right?
Hammertime.com. Yeah.
Or hammertime.com.
Yeah.
Right. It's an internet talk forum specifically for hammer bullets, and there's a lot of good information out there. And like Butterbean said, there's a lot. I mean, if you go through a lot of the posts, you'll see a lot of guys are proponents of what Butterbean just summarized. For myself, I've got, and in fact, we might as well just talk about it now. So I have access to some sophisticated pressure testing barrels. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is what I'm going to do, because I don't know if has Steve or anybody that you know of have gotten any real world pressures on any cartridges, or they haven't.
I think Ed has done a few. I think now I can't I can't say for sure,
Okay.
but as far as I know, no, nobody has really done any pressure trace testing
Okay.
with them.
So, right. So one of my guys here in Ohio, Andy Steinel, he owns Steinel Ammunition. You know, he's not big, but he's an ammunition manufacturer. He's got some pretty sophisticated pressure barrel setups, and he's got a 4570 pressure barrel. Reason why he's got a 4570 is that he about, I would say, maybe over half of his business is for the mill serp, right?
Yeah.
And he started, I think that might have been his first barrel he got, but he needs to be able to load fairly low pressure rounds, because mill serps, as you know, military surplus rifles, like you don't ever want to shoot a, you know, 40,000, 45,000 psi 4570 in an old Springfield trapdoor. You
Yeah.
know, you're going to blow up that rifle. Conversely, his pressure barrel, I don't know if you ever seen a pressure barrel setup.
I have.
So, you know, you've got a typical barrel, maybe inch and a quarter diameter, and then around that is a 3-inch sleeve.
Hmm.
So the entire chamber is 4 inches in diameter, and it uses a piezoelectronic pressure transducer that is actually measuring the deformation on the case. So what I plan on doing, I'm going to get some 4570 bullets from Steve, and I'm going to load them. I'm purposely going to load them fairly hot, and we're going to find out, you know, uh, without a doubt, we're going to find out, you know, we're going to do the typical pressure checks that you and I can do that don't have pressure barrels, right? We're going to look
Yeah.
at the primers, you know, we're going to look at extractors and whatnot. You know, we may even measure case head, and then we'll fire that in the pressure barrel and actually look at the trace. Because I'm really, you know, my background is engineering, so I'll nerd out on this big time. I'm really curious on that pressure spike, where that spike is occurring. You know,
I'm interested too.
I'll take some Barnes bullets, or I'll take some Lehigh bullets, Lehigh Defense bullets, and I'll load them, because I'll do it, because we're going to be doing it in a pressure barrel. I don't care. Like, I would probably never load those at the same powder charges. I'll keep the powder charges constant, and I'll just vary the specific bullets. We're running through the pressure barrels, and we'll be able to look at the, for some of you guys that don't know what I'm saying as far as a pressure curve. So typically on the x-axis is your time, and on the y-axis is your pressure. So when you fire, typically you'll get a pressure. It'll either rise up, spike, and then go down. And like I said, so that initial spike is obviously when the bullet, you know, is hit by the rifling, and then as the bullet travels down the barrel, the pressure should diminish. So I'm really curious. I'm really excited about doing that coming up here in the spring or summer. You know, I'm gonna do that because, you know, like you 2 or 3 years ago, you know, I'm scratching my head. I mean, I got um, in Ohio, we're all strictly still straight wall, right, for
Hmm.
deer hunting. So we're strictly, you know, there's no bottlenecks allowed. So I hunt with, right now. Currently, I got a 360 buck hammer, and for you and the Hammertime guys, it's like, oh yeah, you know, that's to be expected. But to me, I was shocked. I mean, I'm pushing that 360 buck hammer, typical like Remington or Federal factory ammo. They're getting around 20, 2400, 2350 to 2400 for a 180 grain bullet, right? I'm pushing those 178 grain hammers at around 2560, right? at the 20-inch barrel. Those are 308 Winchester velocities, even higher in a 20-inch barrel, you know. And when I'd seen that, I was like shocked, you know. And I looked at my cases. The primers are somewhat flattened, but they're not excessive, and I'm not getting excessive case head expansion, you know, right above the rim. So there's something going on there, you know. What, I don't know, you know, kind of like what you guys have seen, and it's revolutionary in my mind. Um, I talked the former owner of Lehigh Defense, Dave Fricke. He's a good friend of mine. You know, we still talk. He's an awesome guy. He's a, you know, phenomenal engineer. I don't know if you ever worked with Lehigh Defense bullets in the past, but you know, they make a good bullet.
Absolutely.
We talked, and he was very skeptical, right? He was skeptical on the phone. He said, well, you know, to him, it just didn't make sense. So, you know, that's where I'm at right now. So I'm going to, you know, I'm not either here or there. I'm somewhere in the middle right now. But when I do this test with and the only reason why I can do a 4570 is because I know Andy's got that barrel. He may have a 30-06 barrel. I'm gonna have to check with him. Um, but yeah, I definitely want to do that because, you know, without definitive pressure testing equipment, you know, we're all, you know, Dave made the comment a couple days ago. He said, well, you know, hell, you could be hitting 80,000 psi, you know.
Could be.
And the only reason why he said that is, and the reason why that gave me pause is that if you watch the video I did last year at Sino Ammunition, uh, there's a guy in Texas, right? Small guy. He's just starting to make all copper bullets himself. He sent me some 9mm 90 grain all copper bullets, and these bullets have no relief grooves. Okay, this was probably one of the few times where I just took a guy's reloading data and trusted him, right? Just at face value,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I didn't even shoot this, you know, I did shoot this in any of my pistols. It was just by coincidence that the week before I went up to Andy Steinhol's shop and did pressure testing. I loaded up some of his load data, right?
Yeah.
So I was pushing a 90 grain 9mm at around, I think it was well over, it was almost 1,300 feet per second, right? It was hauling ass. When I get up to Andy's and we put the 9mm, because he's got a 9mm pressure barrel, we put that in there. So if you know anything about 9mm, I think the Sammy spec is like 35,000 psi, right? We put this load in the barrel, 47,000 psi. That's beyond plus P plus for 9mm.
Yeah.
You know, and the cases did not show excessive pressure signs, you know. And one other thing that Dave Fricke had told me a couple days ago, you're familiar with Underwood Ammo?
Uh-huh.
You know, they're right there next door to you in Illinois, right?
Yeah.
I think is it Sparta? I'm not
I
sure where
think
in
so.
Illinois.
Yeah.
So I know the owner Underwood pretty well, and it's known in the industry. If you guys look at Underwood Ammo, they load their pistol rounds super hot, right? I mean, they're getting some crazy velocities. Well, David told me a story that they had sent some Underwood ammo to at the time, Western Powders out west, obviously, before Hodgson Powder bought them out. Western Powders had some pressure barrel testing. The 65 grain 380, you know, 380, the little weak 380 ACP pistol round, 65 grain Lehigh Defense bullet, which I've loaded. Underwood Ammo's loading was 80,000 psi.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what, you know, I'm just, you know, I'm not saying, you know, it's BS or not BS. You know, I'm as an engineer, I want to find out, you know. The two limited cartridges I've loaded, the 6 ARC. I mean, my 6 ARC, I'm loading the 75 grain HHT at 3256, which is insane. I was shooting a 6 ARC before the 6 arc wasn't even anybody ever, even before Hornady thought about doing it. I
Yeah.
was shooting a Wildcat back in 2011. It was a 6.8 SPC, neck down to 6 millimeter. It's called the 6 PDK, and the most I could push out of that cartridge was like a 85 or 90 grain burger at around 2850.
Yeah.
And here I'm shooting a 75 grain at nearly 400 feet per second faster. So there's something there, right? I haven't
Oh
blown
yeah.
up any rifles, so there's something there. I don't know what it is, but there is obviously something there.
Well, I mean,
I told Dave, I said, there's these guys on Hammertime. It's not like just one or two guys are shooting crazy, insane velocities. There's not 100. I don't know how many, but there's
oh,
obviously
there's none.
guys across the United States that are getting these velocities.
Yeah, I mean,
It's proven, and you guys
there's
haven't
none.
blown up your guns, right? I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's kaboomed one, have they?
No, no. If anybody, and like I said, I mean, I want everybody to be safe. If anybody was going to blow up a gun, it would have been me. And I'm good about reading pressure signs, and like I said, I like to push things to the max. But I won't, I'm not a dummy. I don't want to just be ignorant. But I
Right.
want to touch on something though. You're talking about the pressure test. Uh, I haven't done it yet, but on LRH, which I love LRH, long range hunting online, it's a big controversy, and anyway, it's kind of calmed down. But anyway, uh, the bulldozer bullets, the bulldozer line of bullets, the bulldozer twos, solid copper.
I don't know what are those. Never heard of them.
It's a solid copper bullet with a limited tip, good bullet. I mean, it's a great bullet. But anyway, the I'm not going to sling mud. There's been a bunch of mud slung. But anyway, a comment came up. The owner of the company said that he tested his 152 grain bulldozer against a 151 hammer, and he said their bullet was always faster. And anyway, I'm like, okay. So it was I just asked him. I said, well, how did you load it? Well, he just took two exact powder loads, okay, and stuffed his 150 bulldozer in it and the 151 hammer in it. His bullet was faster with the same load. Okay, there's a reason for that. His bullet was faster because it has more drag and creates more back pressure, more powder burn, and more powder expansion. Does that make
Right.
sense to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The first question I was going to ask you, what is the design of the bulldozers? Are there any relief grooves or any cuts
It's
or
got
driving
one.
bands?
It's like I said, I'm not knocking them.
Well,
They're
it's just
good
got
bullets.
one.
I mean, yeah, he's got a patent on the bullet. It's a good bullet. I
Right.
mean, I'm
Right.
not knocking it. So, but
Right.
when they make like I said, when they make that, he came out and made it was a snide comment. He said, well, we loaded the 151 and our bullet was always faster. I'm like, okay. I said, how did you load it? And he told me we took X amount of powder and we put our bullet in it. Our bullet was faster. Well, that's why his bullet was faster, because it has more resistance.
How much faster was it?
It like 20 feet a second. I mean,
Yeah.
anyway. So anyway, I've got the bullet. I've ordered.
That's an extreme spread right there.
Oh yeah, but I mean, he's like, well, our bullets were always faster, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just telling you, I've got the bullets. They finally showed up, the bulldozer twos, and I've got the 151 hammers, and I'm going
Right.
to do my own test.
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I know that.
and just like you said with the hammers, they are so slick that that's why everybody's like, oh, you're way over book max, and yeah, you are over book max on a lot of that stuff. But they show no pressure signs because they are so freaking slick.
Right. So this thought just came in my mind. So have you ever heard of quick load software?
I have. I'm not a big fan of it, and it does not work well with hammers.
No, it doesn't work well without at hammers. In fact, I stopped because I used to swear by quick loads with all other bullets until I started doing hammers, and I was way the hell off. I was like, "What's going on here?"
They can't get a grasp. They can't get a grasp on how slick that bullet is.
No, they can't. And the reason why quick loads won't work is because obviously they don't have. And what I'm going to allude to here is what you're talking about is friction, right? and this is something that Dave Fricke had told me about a couple days ago, is that so in quick loads, if you look at the pressure trace, here's ignition, right? Pressure spikes up and then it dips down. And he said he said once a bullet gets engraved, right? Engraved defined as the bullet obturates, it deforms to the rifling to the lands and grooves. That's why your pressure drops, because you no longer have that high friction. It's like you trying to shove something really fast. You hit an object, either one of two things are going to happen. You're going to stop and not move any further, or you're going to actually power through, in very simple terms. Getting back to what you said about the bulldozer bullets, right?
Yep.
And I think, just in my mind, intuitively, what's happening is he's getting that pressure spike, right? And he's still getting that spike, and that spike, that curve maybe kind of plateau, flattening out, because the bullet's still trying to engrave, because he's only got one cut, and that pressure spike is going to give him a little bit higher velocity. And then once that bullet is fully engraved, because you think about it, it's not like the bullet is getting engraved the entire length of the barrel. It's only getting engraved for the length of the bullet, right?
Yep.
If a bullet's only 1 inch long and you're going to engrave maybe 3/4 of an inch because of the ogive to the base, once the base is fully engraved, now you just have the resistance, right, has gone down so much. With the bulldozer, he's probably getting a longer plateau of the spike of the pressure, and then it drops off, and that's his increase in velocity.
Very well could be.
To your point about the hammer bullets, we're getting that spike, which we're getting that increased velocity, but that spike is so minimal, right?
Yep.
We're not getting a tremendous, we're not getting a sustained, a relatively longer period of pressure, right?
Absolutely.
That pressure spikes and then it starts dropping down. We don't spike, maybe plateau and then drop down, right? And that's probably where, if you think about it, that's probably where you're going to damage. Either the case is going to rupture, right? The chamber's going to rupture, or the back of the case is going to blow out. The bolt's going to blow out, and you're going to get a kaboom. And man, I'm just brainstorming. I'm trying to wrap my brain around what's going on. That's probably what's happening. Is that we're getting a pressure spike to get that increased velocity, but that spike is so short that it's not causing any damage.
I'll tell you, staying on that subject, something else that which I've been doing this for years, and now it's caught on, is and it's one of those things, it's crimping, using the leaf factor crimp die.
Yes. Yep.
That is a very, very, it's always been a valuable tool to me. I've used it on everything. Cup and core bullets,
right?
It don't make any difference. But with hammers, it makes, and once again, this is just me, but we call it powder ignition dwell time. You can adjust the powder ignition dwell time with the leaf factor crimp die, and you can hold the bullet in the case X amount. I'm sure it's nanosecond, but we found, and I found, and a bunch of people now are like, hey, it works. Holding that bullet that extra little bit changes things dramatically.
Yeah, I read, so when I started loading my 6 arc just 3 months ago, I read either your post or somebody else's, because initially my initial velocities was around 32. I was just slightly over 3,200, right?
Yep.
So I have got a Lee FCD, a factory crimp die for 6 arc, right? So I applied that crimp. Now, folks that are just hearing this for the first time, if you guys are just getting into hammer bullets, Butterbean can go into specifics of where to crimp, because it's important where you crimp. I crimped my cases, and I gained 50 feet per second just doing that.
Absolutely.
Pressure didn't go up significantly, as far as I can tell.
No.
but I gained 50 feet per. That's why I'm at 32.56 now, because before I was at, and to your point, yes. I mean, I'm a huge. I've got I've got a separate case of just Lee factory crimp dies. In fact, I've sent in like I'm a huge fan of Wildcat Steel. I mean, I shoot Ackley Improves. I got my 6 PDK. I've sent in cases to Lee to make me a custom Lee factory crimp die, 20 years ago. That's how much I believe in them. Because, like you said, the reason being is that people that don't crimp, right? Because, like, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it's like, oh, no, don't crimp. That's bad. That's bad for accuracy.
yeah.
Well, the reason being is that, number one, the advantages of the Lee factory crimp die, number one is your overall case length, your trim length is not as critical, right? I mean, you can't be 10, 12, 15 thou out between short and long, but your case length is not as critical, because if you look at a typical crimping die, you either put a taper or roll crimp, the case length is critical. Whereas the Lee factory crimp die, it's just a collet that's squeezing down on the case neck. The problem with guys that don't crimp is that if your neck wall thicknesses are inconsistent, your bullet tension's inconsistent, you're going to get inconsistent neck tension, you're going to get inconsistent ignition, you're going to get inconsistent pressure, you're going to get inconsistent velocity. And to Butterbean's point, that's why he crimps. Lee factory crimp die. All right, I'm sorry. I just took off there. Tell us
No,
about
no, no, no. That's fine.
tell us about your process with hammer bullets and a Lee factory crimp die, because you can crimp them wrong, which makes sense whether you believe it or not. You can crimp in the wrong place on the bullet.
Well, I mean, I've got a YouTube channel, and a lot of I did. Matter of fact, I did that just to help people. But most folks crimp in the valley, in the PDR groove.
Right, and let's just real quickly. So the groove, typical bullets with the typical copper bullets, solid copper monolithics, their groove is 90 degrees, right?
Yep.
You got the valley square off, the peak square off, valley square off. With the PDR, it's like a sine wave, or like a wave in the water.
Yep.
Where'd you go on?
Well, you want to crimp in the valley, in the wave, but and like I said, it's a tuning tool. Don't use the Lee instructions, which is fine, but what I found, and I've been doing this for decades, but anyway, to me, it's just a valuable tuning tool as anything on my bench. You you can, like I said, I'm not going to get all into it. But anyway, you just raise your round all the way up. You turn your die in until you have a contact with it, snug it up, let your round down, and then make a mark with a Sharpie and turn it a 16th of an inch and crimp it, and try that. And you can tune a load with that crimp die.
16th of an inch or 16th of a rotation?
16th of a turn. I'm sorry, 16th of a turn, 8th of a
right.
Most of us hammer guys, we use 1/8, quarter, and half.
Okay.
Just start.
You can mark the die for folks. Just 360-degree circle.
Yep.
Just mark your increments, 90, 180, whatever.
And I mean, it's a tuning tool.
Right.
We've got guys that it shot okay with 1/8. It shot great with a quarter. We've got guys that are using half turn, and it's a tuning tool. I mean, it's a freaking invaluable tool to me.
Right.
And it's one of those things. I mean, I'm like you oh, you don't got to crimp. You don't got to crimp. No, you don't have to. But if you're not, you're just, what gets me is all the guys that are so gung ho about being super accurate and all this and that. And they just say, oh, that's a crimp die. I ain't crimping. I'm like, okay.
Right.
You're losing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, because it's a proven fact. I mean, you can't, now if you got cases, I mean, unless you're like a, freaking bench rest shooter, right? Who spends half an hour per case, because I've been there, done that. I mean, I've wasted, I got so, because I don't know about you, man, but I've gone to extremes, right? Like when I was trying to to find that mythical quarter MOA rifle.
Oh
I did
yeah.
everything everybody told you should do because I'm
Yep.
an engineer. I've said, well, let's see if this is true or not, right?
Yep.
I mean, literally, there's one time I literally I added up my time. I was spending like literally 30 to 35 minutes just get my freaking brass ready before I even put primer in there, you know? Seriously, because there's 20 things you could do to brass prep just to get it ready, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then you find out that, you know, maybe you don't need to do that, right? I mean, it's not, you know, it's like most people will not be able to shoot at that well, right?
That's the thing, and
Most
I say that all the time. You can't shoot the difference.
No, I mean, see that buck right there? That's a
Yep.
182-inch buck. I shot at 7 yards with a recurve with cedar arrows, turkey feathers, and hand sharpened broadheads.
Yep. No, and
So,
that's
you
another
know,
thing with the internet and just the every there. How should I say it? There's a lot of world class shooters
right.
that ain't never won a contest anywhere. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
And and I'm just like I'm a 3/4 win MOA shooter, half MOA at the best. That's me.
right.
So if and
All that matters is what you're trying to hit, right?
absolutely,
I mean, I've always told people, number one, I'm a hunter. Number two, I'm a target shooter, right?
yeah, yep.
Being a hunter drives being a target shooter, not the other way around, you know?
Oh
I
yeah, and
mean,
that's
because
like
like you're in Indiana, I'm in Ohio. I grew up shooting groundhogs, you know, at
yeah, oh absolutely.
300, 400 yards, and you know, I'm not trying to hit a 12-inch steel plate at 300 yards. I'm trying to hit a 2-inch kill zone on a groundhog at
Yeah.
3, 4, 500 yards.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what all the 1,200 yard prairie dog shooters. I love them guys. You
Yeah,
know, I'm like, all right.
yeah,
But I'm not saying it can't be done. It can be done.
right.
I've seen it.
Hey,
But it ain't the first shot.
all right, listen, Butterbean. I think this is a good point to, and you know, I don't know. I don't care what people think, but so my opinion of these extreme long range shooters that are shooting like a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, right? Here's my opinion, and I want your opinion too. It's probably the same as mine. So back in the day, like back in the 80s and 90s, you know, my first groundhog rifle was either 22 250 or 243. You know, back then nobody had laser rangefinders, right? Nobody had smartphones. Nobody had dope charts, right? Back then it was sight in at I used to sight in at I think I'd sight in at 200 yards, right? And
Yep.
I'd either aim low or high depending on how far I think that groundhog was, right?
Yep.
And I really didn't learn to read the wind that well, right? So I was a hell of a groundhog killer. You know why? Because I was a hell of a stalker. I spent a lot of times on my hands and knees because
Yeah.
I didn't want to see how far away I could kill a groundhog. I wanted to kill a groundhog, right? It
And I
wasn't
mean, there's a
about how
lot of
far
people.
it wasn't about being, oh yeah, I killed one at 1,000 yards. No, I wanted to kill it. And if I wasn't gonna hit it at 1,000 yards, I damn sure well was gonna sneak up on it and kill it at 300 yards. You know what I'm
You know,
saying?
yeah,
And
and I mean, I'm with you on that. Uh, like I said, where I hunt here, 500 yards. I hold my. I've shot long. I've shot a mile. I've never shot a critter at a mile. I wouldn't even
no,
do that. But
no.
anyway, I've shot some long distances. But I hold myself to 500 yards now because that's what I feel comfortable with. And the wind blows up here. You know how the wind blows,
Yeah,
it has to be right for me to even do that. And I'm long range hunting online is I've been on that website forever and I love that place and I'm all for it. But the older I get, and I'm not going to bring ethics into it. It's just a personal choice to me,
right.
you
Well,
know.
to my point about I was getting to the wind part. If the wind blew over 10, 15 miles an hour, right? I didn't hunt,
No,
right? because I told him, I said, you know what? I might as well just roll down my window in my truck, take my ammo, and just throw it out the window and go home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
and
mean,
and, and to my point, these guys that are shooting 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 miles, right? It may take them 5, 6, 10, 20 shots to hit a 36-inch steel plate or a 4x8-inch steel plate or foot, right?
yep.
But why? Why are you slinging? And maybe it's because they got unlimited money, because that's all you're doing. You know, their shots are not only missing up and down, their shots are missing left and right, right? Because
Yeah.
that wind, after 1 or 2 miles, that wind's doing this, it's doing that, it's doing this, and it's doing that. And it's just a crapshoot at that point. And my thoughts are, you might as well just take your ammo, roll down your window, and just throw the ammo out the window. Because, I mean, that's my personal opinion. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
probably get some crap from people saying, "Oh, but it's fun to shoot." Well, that's fine. You can do that. I I have no desire to do that. I ain't gonna try to shoot a deer at a mile. That'd be ridiculous. You know.
Well, I mean, just like I said, I mean, right here out my front door, I've got a gong at 836 yards, and I can shoot a mile out of my front yard here.
Right.
And I've got stuff set up. I like shooting long distance, but
It's fun.
it's just like you said. I mean, if I come out here and the wind's blowing 15 mile an hour, that 836 yard gong, it's an 8-inch gong, which I may never hit it if it
Yeah.
gets hard. I can hit all around it,
Right.
and I could probably kill a deer, probably kill a deer at that distance, but I'm not chancing it. I mean, and like I said, the older I get, for one, I don't want to chase crap. For
Right.
two, I want to make sure. Now, with that being said, hammers have changed the way I hunt. Like I said, I load light and fast, and I already told you how I set my guns up.
Right.
But if there's a deer at 500 yards here and the wind's blowing 20 mile an hour, I can hit that deer.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Because you got the speed now.
I have the speed. And everybody goes, oh, BC, this and that, and I always say BC don't matter, and that's just me. And everybody's like, BC does matter. It does matter. I'm not saying it don't matter. It don't matter to me.
Right.
If you're shooting 1,000 yards, sure, that's all going to come into play. And I've done it. I've shot long distance. I mean, I've done it all over the years, but you know as well as I do how many people that's killed anything over 600 yards.
Yeah. Not very many.
Yeah, and I mean there's guys that do it. I know they do
Right.
it, and I mean I've been lucky enough to be around a lot of good shooters, and I've seen elk took at 800 yards. I've seen elk took at 1,000 yards, but it wasn't the first shot.
Right.
There was two and a guy spotting.
Right. Right.
And I mean that far away, the elk didn't move. They don't know what's going on. They're just standing there, and it gives you a chance to adjust. But and like I said, I mean, I'm all for it. If you're confident enough, have at it. That's just I'm not that confident enough anymore.
Hey, look who woke up.
For
Hey,
God's
Steve.
sake.
You know what?
Hey, Steve, you're on the air, man. So watch what you say.
Okay.
Man, we can't see. We just see a cool black background.
Oh,
kind of gray.
Hang on here. Hey, there we go.
There he is.
So hey,
do you have a nice nap?
So I thought we were doing this Thursday. I don't know.
Thursday, Tuesday, what? It's a couple days. You're fine.
It all starts with a T.
So I've been trying to call Bean back. I was on the phone. My phone was ringing off the hook.
Oh, you're fine.
I saw that I missed a phone call from Butterbean. I'm like, oh, I gotta call him back, and he's not answering the phone. I'm like, what's going on? So now then I went and checked my text, and it's like, hey, podcast in 5 minutes, and that was an hour ago.
You're fine.
So my apologies, guys.
Oh, you're fine, Steve. No, we've had some really good topics here. We're slinging some shit now.
Yeah.
Hey, Butterbean, do me a favor, all right? Because does Len Backus still own LRH, Long Range Hunting Talk? Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you get a hold of him? Tell him that I'm locked out.
I can.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
locked out because, like, dude, I joined that. I think I joined that maybe when it first started 15, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And I forgot my password. I had my old email in there, which is now no longer in existence. So I can't reset my password. So I want to, and I've sent him emails from other emails, and So anyway, do me a favor because I want to get back on there.
I'll
I
tell
too
him.
was a.
We're on a first name basis, me and Lynn. He's
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever either I get on here whenever I put this up, because this won't go public for probably, I'm thinking 2 or 3 weeks. I want one of you guys to post this on there, So, anyways,
absolutely.
how you doing, man?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good, man.
Okay.
We were like Steve's got a machine broke or something.
No, just the phone. Whenever the phone goes, it goes all at once. Everybody calls at the same time. In fact,
yeah.
I should turn it off here because it'll start ringing while we're doing this. We'll just put it.
Just put it in silent.
There we go. Yeah.
Put it in the mode. Put it in the mode that pisses my wife off to no end. She's like, "You didn't answer my call." I was like, "Yeah, because it was silent, honey. How's I supposed to know you called?"
Oh yeah. Well, that reminds me back in the day, and texting, and I'm like, I don't want to text anybody. That's stupid, right? And my wife's like, well, I'll send you a text, and that way, you can look at it when you get a chance. And I'm like, all right, I guess that makes sense. And then now, I sent you a text. How come you didn't answer me back? Because I haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah. It's not like you're lying to her. You're telling her the truth.
That's the whole reason for text is I can see it when I want to, right?
Hey, Steve, you know what that is?
That's a straight wall for something.
4570.
Okay.
So Butterbean and I already had this discussion. I had this thought. It was either this morning or last night. I've got access to pressure barrels. Okay.
Okay.
So I want you to send me some 458 sample. Just send me like 10 458 bullets.
Yeah, because I'm fixing to send a package to you now.
Yeah, well, before you do that, add some 458, just like 10 of each for 4570. I'm gonna do a test. Butterbean already knows about this. I'm gonna take some Lehigh Defense bullets, and I don't know if I got any old. I don't think I got any Barnes, like the old 300. Remember the 300 grain 458s? I don't have those. I got some Lehighs. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep the powder charge constant, and I'm gonna hot load them. Right? Like I would never think of shooting these in my Marlin lever action, but I got access to a 4-inch diameter pressure barrel, and I'm gonna get some pressure traces on that load.
Okay, what weight are we looking at?
What do you got? Like 250,
250, 275, 300.
Yeah, just send me like 10 of each.
Okay, you don't want to go any heavier than 300, do you?
What else you got?
Oh, what? Up to 400 grains or so in the.
All right, just like even I'm only gonna load like 2 or 3, because like I said, well, maybe just send me like 5 of each, because I don't want to accidentally have one and then stick it in my Marlin and say bye-bye.
Okay.
So just send me 5 of each, 5 of your entire 458, and I'm gonna load them hot. I mean, what do you think, Butterbean? Just a nice healthy dose of bullseye?
Yeah, just pack her full. Load it like a cannon. Stuff it down and have at it.
Man. So I think that would be cool, Steve. What do you think? So because I don't know if you see my video. My buddy here in Ohio's got he's got a pressure tester, and it actually shows a pressure trace.
Cool.
From ignition to the muzzle exit.
I'll be interested to see what you find with that.
Yeah, we'll get some real world data.
Yeah, I told him the same thing I mean, I'm interested to see what the trace looks like.
So what we've seen with that stuff is, um, unless you've got it jammed in the lands, the initial engraving pressure will be lower, and then as it heads down the barrel, it becomes less than what you see with other bullets.
Really?
So the initial engraving pressure is a bit lower, and then the continued engraving as it goes through the barrel is a fair amount lower.
You know,
And
Steve, go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's why we see a little bit more velocity for same weight bullet compared to other bullets.
I want to ask you this question because I forgot to ask you last time we talked. As you know, and Butterbean, you know this too. You know how they air gauge a barrel? You know what that is?
Yeah.
Right? So they're checking for ID, variances in ID in the entire length of the barrel, right? Right?
Yeah.
So like you could have near the muzzle, it could be dead nuts on, an inch down. It could be oversized or undersized. So you can get these variances, right? And for the folks that don't know, so an air gauge, what they do is they drive a rod down there and they're measuring for leakage, for minute leakage of the air. And if you get a higher leak rate, that means you got an oversized ID. If you get a lower leak rate, you're going to have an undersize. So my question to you, Steve, is, and this is something that Dave Fricke, the former owner of Lehigh Defense, right? Good friend of mine, he told me that he has had bad success with the micro diameter, micro being like 20 caliber and smaller bullets because of that very fact. What's your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts? Or because he was saying because of the copper bullets on a barrel that has too much variation, where if it's undersized, the bullets get engraved undersized, and then when it hits the oversized portion of the barrel, you get gas flow by around the bullet, and then you got. And he said that on the smaller diameter barrels, that was more critical than a relatively larger diameter barrel. And I figured I had you're a bullet maker, and Butterbean, if you want to throw your
Seems,
2 cents.
Seems reasonable to me, I guess. I mean, we make stuff down to 17 cal,
Right.
and I shoot my little 17 Hornet. In fact, I'm going to take it to Africa next month. But I haven't seen any issues, but I haven't shot a lot of 17s. We've shot a ton of 22.
Right.
And I haven't found them to be any more finicky with the smaller bores. So, but what you described there, I think sounds reasonable. The amount of tolerance for variation as that gets smaller, I think, is probably seems reasonable that it probably makes more difference.
Right.
Now because of the way we designed our drive bands, we cut our bullets bigger than caliber to for that reason, so that we can make up for those tolerances in barrels. Because copper doesn't obfuscate like lead. It has a tougher time with tight bores creating too much pressure because it doesn't squeeze down as easy.
Right.
But then looser barrels, the bullet bounces down the barrel and you get bad accuracy.
Right.
So because we can cut 5-10 thousandths over diameter without creating any extra pressure issues, we kind of eliminated those normal copper bullet problems.
That's inherent to the accuracy.
Yeah, and I always joke about that. I wish I could say, oh yeah, well, we knew it was going to be that easy to load and that they would be that easy to get accuracy because of our design. It was a bonus to the design. We were just trying to solve pressure issues. And then, I may have told you that story once before. When we first started, I was a lone voice out there going, hey, look what we did. And so I would go online and post up, hey, we just load developed this rifle today, and it only took us, 15 shots or 20 shots, and we got this great load, and inevitably somebody would pop in and go, well, you just got lucky. And I'd say, well, I suppose you're probably right, And then there was a day I posted up one of the rifles that we loaded, and somebody popped in and said, oh, you just got lucky. And I said, well, you know what? I'm lucky all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was about that point that we came to the realization, hey, there's something to this. These things are easy to load, like no other bullet I've ever loaded. And Bean will say the same thing. Bean was the guy that didn't want anything to do with us until our buddy down in Texas talked you into shooting them. And then all of a sudden you were like, wow, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, we got the backstory. Hey, listen, fellas, let's take an intermission here if you don't mind. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.
No sweat.
We're back. We just had to take a little potty break there. Anyways, Steve, I got this on my talking point. This was actually number 2. So actually, Steve is the one that suggested that we get Butterbean on the podcast, and so here we are. But Steve, go ahead and tell the backstory. You kind of alluded to it earlier about what you guys did to Butterbean on Hammertime with the 6.5. You got to hear this story. It's a great story.
The 6.5 and Butterbean's hatred of the 6.5.
The Creedmoor.
Right, yeah, the Creedmoor in particular, right? And the Creedmoor just made him a complete hater of anything 6.5. And so, a couple of years ago, we were all, there's this, we'll call it the group of guys, the hammerheads, whatever. Anyway, there's a group of us, 40 anyway, the half a dozen guys or so that are always kind of trying to figure out a way to get at each other, right? So we were trying to figure out how we could pull one on Bean, and somehow or another it came up in the conversation. We get him a 6.5 Creedmoor because he'd hate that, right? So, and Brian and I are like, well, we got one. We'll send it to him for Christmas. So we had this little Ruger American. I don't know, what'd you do with that, Bean? Is it hanging on the wall somewhere?
It's hanging on the wall down in the lab.
So
I ain't pulled the trigger on it. I ain't shooting it.
Right? Yeah. So I wrote this big long note about how all of us were concerned for Butterbean, and we hated to see a man needing more, so we got him a Creedmoor, and all this stuff, and there was a little bit of blood on that gun because we killed a deer with it and it got on it, right? And I noted that hey, this gun's already tried and true, and so and we hooked his wife up. She had no idea other than we hooked her up to video. We said, you got to video this, and we can't tell you what's going on. And I don't know if you've pulled up those videos and seen them or not, but
not yet. I want to though now.
Oh, you gotta. It's priceless. So we sent the package for Christmas to your brother's place, I think.
Yeah.
That way he wouldn't see it, right? And then Christmas comes and goes, and we haven't heard nothing. We've been waiting for Bean to call us up. What'd you guys do? Right? We're just waiting for the retaliation, and it's silent. And it's like, oh no, he's calling our bluff.
Oh no.
And we thought, no, it didn't work out. Well, heck, he was out of town. He was gone for Christmas. So then he gets back after Christmas, and it's like, okay, they went and go get this thing. And his wife's recording, and he's got the long box, and he's like, he looks at her, what did you do? And so that was the end of that video. Then he gets home and he's opening this thing up, and she's videoing, and he's looking at her, and he's looking at this. What'd you do? And then he's looking at it, he's going, those sons of bitches. Those sons of bitches. Oh yeah. And then his wife all of a sudden she goes, What is it? That's not a 6.5 Creedmoor, is it?
Oh, she was.
Yeah, she didn't
Oh,
know either.
man.
No, get it out of my house. And so
It was
this
classic.
all got-
It was a good one.
Oh God, we got him so good, you know. And then of course, he, you know, Bean's a good sport, so he posted it up on Long Range Hunting. Started a thread called "I've Been Bamboozled," you know, and post the video of him opening up the gift from us. So then this thread on Long Range Hunting takes on a whole life. I mean, it's more or less been running for a couple of years, and all these guys are giving him crap about how he's got a Creedmoor, you know, he's got to wear a man bun and skinny jeans and all this stuff, you know, and
Oh yeah.
and you know, and then they started calling it the Beanmore, and anyhow, so the whole thing for years, all these guys are, when are you going to shoot it? When are you going to shoot it? And he's like, never. I stand strong. I'll never shoot it. You know, so this same group of us is back together again. We're scheming. How are we going to get him to shoot this thing? How are we going to shame him into it somehow? What are we going to do to make him shoot this Creedmoor? You know, it's like, he won't. There's no way. We'll never get him to do it. So then we started scheming, and we thought, you know, this whole Beanmore thing. And it's like, well, what if we designed a cartridge and named it the Beanmore?
Oh no.
So, oh yeah, that'd be awesome, right? So we start scheming this thing, and of course, it's all born in a joke. You know, so when we designed the cartridge, the goal was design this cartridge so that you could run a reamer into a Creedmoor without having to set back the barrel, and you could convert it into a Beanmore.
All right.
Right. So we had to design all the dimensions so that, you know, it would be able to do that without having to set a barrel back. So it'd just be a simple run a reamer in and you're done. And, you know, but we made the shoulder on the cartridge 36.5 degrees. 6.5,
Oh, so it's
right?
not actually improved by, it's a little
No,
bit.
it's our design
It's
all
36.5 degree shoulder.
It's not 40 degrees.
Every place that we could put a 6.5 into the design.
Oh, 30. I just got it.
Because he hates the 6.5, right?
I hate the
So
6.5.
We designed the whole thing around 6.5, you know. And so anyhow, we come up with a design, and we're going to call it the Beanmore, right? And so and it's one word, you know, like Creedmoor, one word,
Yeah.
but it's capital BEAN, and then a capital MORE, no space.
Also, it's not MOOR. It's MORE.
No, it's MORE.
Yeah.
But with a capital M in it because it's more, right?
Right,
it's
right.
Bean and it's more.
Right.
So yeah, the Beanmore. So we're scheming this thing out, you know, and then our buddy 40, he's talking with Bruce Bertram from Bertram Brass, and tells him the story about what we're doing. And Bruce is like, oh, I hate the Creedmoor. I'm in. I'll make a run of head stamp brass for him. So now we've got head stamp brass, and this thing just kind of took off, you know. And then I was scheming, you know, how are we gonna get Butterbean with this thing, you know. And so I almost had it set up where we were going to do a podcast with Spalmer.
Oh, Ron. Yeah.
And going to bring Butterbean in to talk about his method of crimping a load to tune it, and that's all he was going to know. Well, but the whole scheme was that we were going to hand him a Beanmore and say, this is going to be the rifle we're going to do this with, and then he'd have to figure it out, right? But then we just couldn't get schedules together, and it's like, we got to get it to him. And I'm like, well, let's just send it to him for Christmas again and get his wife on the hook to video. And she doesn't know what's going on. So we packed it all up in a case, you know, and it's a beautiful custom rifle. Everybody pitched in, and as a gift for our good friend. And
what's the action?
It's built on a Mac Brothers.
Oh, it's a Mac Brothers.
Yep.
Oh, this
And
ain't no $300 Ruger American now.
no, it's a beautiful
This is a
rifle.
beautiful
Oh
piece,
yeah.
beautiful piece.
Yeah, and so anyway, we put it all together and put in there. There's a set of dies in there, and on the dies
You
it
had
says,
dies made?
yeah, Hornady's making their dies for us.
They made custom dies.
Yeah, Beanmore dies. So it says right on the dies, Beanmore.
I wonder what case capacity you gain by tweaking 6.5 degrees. You gain a little bit. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh,
You didn't
yeah.
blow the case out, nothing. The taper's the same, right? Just a shoulder.
No, we took taper out of the case too.
Also, you did kind of actually improved it. You beamed improved it. The
Yeah,
the bean improved.
yeah,
It's not ackled, it's been beaned.
right. And so we've got the die set in there, and then a bag of 100 head stamp brass, and so everything's in there that he needs to go, right? And so he opens this thing up and he's looking at it, and you can see that his head's turning. What is this? And he picks up the dies and he looks at them and he looks at this and all of a sudden it starts registering to him what the heck is there, and he's like, I can't believe you guys did this. Anyhow, you'll have to go look at that video too. It was priceless. It brought our big buddy pretty near to tears. Couldn't believe that all these guys would give him a rifle.
Is that on your Hey, by the way, Butterbean, I'll put your YouTube channel in the description of this podcast. But is it on your YouTube channel?
I don't think they posted the videos of me getting that rifle. It was.
Oh, you got to put that on your YouTube channel, man.
It was a. I'll just be honest with you. It was a heartfelt moment. I mean,
that's good. That's good. Yeah. That's good. So it's on LRH, or is it on Hammertime?
I don't think the video of me getting that gun's anywhere.
Isn't it?
Oh, okay. Oh, you've never publicized it.
Well, I mean, I sent it to them, and nobody ever put it up. I'll put it up. I'm about.
I thought
it was.
I thought it was on the Hammertime. Maybe or not. Well,
I don't know if it is or not, Steve. I'm just telling you, it was a heartfelt moment to me. That, I mean, I'm a nobody, and for somebody to do that,
we're all somebody, man. So what?
I'm just a guy that likes shooting crap. You know what I mean? And
oh yeah. And what's your load? What kind of load did you develop for that?
Well, they sent 80 grain HHTs, and I had trouble crimping them. They were moving around, so Brian designed a 80 HHT with a cantilever in it.
Oh, really?
I got to put it on the website. I think what we've decided is we're going to put that 80 grain with the option of the cantilever or without the cantilever.
They both shoot great, but that cantilever really helps with the crimping.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm running. I don't know. I can't remember the load. I'm running tack right now, but I'm pushing it right at 3,900 feet a second.
Woo, man.
Yeah.
What kind of scope you got on that optic?
I'm right now. I'm running Arkans.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Hey, I just got one of those the EP5s I'm going to be reviewing soon.
I've got EP5.
Man, I can't believe that glass.
But I will say this: the rifle's beautiful. I mean, it's the craftsmanship's almost unreal, and me and Steve have had this conversation before. It's not that I don't. It's the Creedmoor's a great round. It's the people that buy it that think they instantly turn into Carlos Hathcock.
Right.
And they get it,
Right.
Now, that being said, I've ran the ballistics on this. I mean, dude, that 80 grain's good to 800 yards.
Oh, I'm sure.
That kind of speed people don't get,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about an 80 grain bullet that is good for a deer or elk at 800 yards.
Right.
But now, like I said, that's the threshold. That's what me and you were talking about earlier. That's 18, and the HHT will go to 1,700. But anyway,
right.
I mean, 80 grain, and I mean the drop on it's. Speed to me, speed's everything.
That bullet runs out of the Creedmoor, I don't know, 3,600 or so.
Right.
And when I tell people that, that starting out at 3,600 feet per second, the impact velocity at 400 yards is higher than the muzzle velocity of the 140 something grain bullet that would typically be run out of that rifle.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So
400
then
yards.
all of a sudden people are like, really? At 400 yards, the impact velocity is faster than the muzzle velocity of a 140 some grain bullet.
Right.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden it starts becoming, holy cow. All right, now I get it. So now all of a sudden, at 400 yards, your impact velocity is above 2,700 feet per second.
Right.
And you've already gone as far as most people ever shoot.
Right.
Now here's another thing too that I was going to tell you, and one of the biggest factors to me in the way I hunt here is knowing that the bullet is going to do the same thing every time.
Yep.
And we've proved it and proved it and proved it. We have done. I mean, 40's done 99% of the grunt work, but if you can name a shot, it's been done. Texas heart shot through the ham, through the front shoulder, through the neck, long ways, body ways, crossways. And like I said, the way I hunt here, I don't have time to wait for a deer to turn broadside because they're moving in the fence
Right.
road. And to know that I can shoot a deer in the ham and aim for the far leg and the bullet's going to do the same thing is priceless to me.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's just another added benefit. You add that to the speed, the flight time, it's a win-win combination. It's just all around great bullet. So
Right.
Well, and that was our whole goal all along, and to get that bullet to do what we wanted it to do, and a lot of it come down to the copper we use, and when we found that copper, then we actually were able to get the bullet to do what our ideal that we had in our head of what a bullet should do. We were able to achieve that. And like Bean is saying there, when the bullet can do that, whether it's low velocity or high velocity, retains the same weight, penetration is great. It increases your window for error, I will say, right? Or in Bean's, the way you described that, or increases your window of opportunity.
absolutely.
I
mean, I don't have to wait for a deer to turn broadside. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be stupid, but I know that if he's quartering away from me, I can shoot him in the ham and aim for the far leg, and I'm going to kill that deer. I have no doubt in my mind that deer is
Right.
dead.
Yeah, and those are those tough shots, and in the field, I mean, everybody says that, well, I waited for the broadside shot. I can tell you as a hunter, they're never as broadside as I think they are.
Nope.
They look broadside. It's deceiving. They're always turned a little bit, and then there's always those shots that wind up turning a little more yet, and you wind up having to come in behind the last rib and be able to get to that far leg on the front shoulder. Well, that's a tall order for a lot of bullets, even on just a small whitetail. There's a lot of material in that paunch that you got to get through before you can get to those vitals to dispatch that deer humanely and quickly.
Right.
And our bullets up to that task, but they also don't need any bones or hard materials to get the job done. That's always been a knock on copper bullets, as in general, they're too hard. Our bullets are very soft, and they open easily and rapidly. So a boneless impact, will generally have full expansion within the first couple inches of penetration.
Right.
Now, like I said, I'm repeating myself. Like, knowing that bullet is going to do the same thing every time is priceless.
Yep. That
To me,
and
it's
you're
priceless.
right. I mean, that was always the knock against, if you know the if you guys probably know the history of the Nosler partition,
Yep.
that was Nosler. That was his whole thing, is that he couldn't rely upon at the time the traditional cup and core bullets, whether because the bonding process was a failure at the factory. That's why he put the H in the partition to guarantee that he would get a mushroom to occur. Now by today's standards, that's very old and archaic traditional thinking. But then now you
I,
look at you look
I
at
still,
bullet technology now, and it's just like it's revolutionary.
well, I still say, in my book, I think that partition was the most revolutionary bullet of our time.
Right,
Um, as far as I'm concerned, it's still a good bullet.
right,
And people compare us to what we want our bullet to do to the partition, and I'd say that's a great comparison. We want
Absolutely.
to get rid of that nose, and we want to retain a flat, square fronted shank, which was the goal of the partition. And given the materials available and what they developed with the partition, that was really the only way they could make that happen, right?
right,
And we set out to do it with copper, and it didn't work when we first started. We just thought we'd get really good pure copper and everything would do what we wanted, and it didn't work. And it took us a couple of years of searching for different coppers, trying different stuff, to when we found this copper that actually, holy cow, we can control our weight retention based on hollow point depth. So it retains the same weight to the bottom of the hollow point, whether it's high velocity or low velocity impacts. And we can make that control without doing any kind of scoring or broaching or weakening of areas of the bullet. And by not weakening that bullet to make it, give it a place to fracture, we'll say. When you give it a place to fracture, that makes it happen too easily, and you can't get the kind of shock or pop out of that expansion and shedding that you do with our bullet. And that's one of the things that sets us apart from the others out there, is that shocking impact. So when these animals get hit, they're almost always visibly they're hit.
right.
You already see a deer when I shoot one with the mule with that 124 running at 4250. They don't. They they hunch up like they're trying to take a poop, and then they just fall over, and their insides are mush.
Right.
I mean, it's the old saying, they don't know what hit them. That's the epitome of it.
Right.
I mean, when you shoot them, I look. I mean, they're hunched up. Their feet are almost touching. It's like they're constipated. And I'm like, oh, did I not hit it? And then they just fall over. And I'm like, oh no, I hit it.
Yeah.
Well,
do you get to hunt with the silencer, Butterbean, or not?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so you could probably hear the impact even more so.
Well, it happens pretty quick.
Right. It does. That's so fast.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, and like I said, I mean, this is just me. And the hammer bullets, they work at regular speeds too. But dude, and we have found as a whole, as a group, when you get 3,700 is a threshold. When you get above 3,700 feet a second, things change drastically.
Yeah.
I mean, everything changes. Just the whole attitude of everything changes. I'm grinning because it's just a whole different world, dude. It's just like, you want to see something? Watch this.
Right.
Watch this.
Hey, Steve.
Let me throw this in real quick. I'm always very careful not to tell people that, if you shoot them with a hammer, they're always going to drop in their tracks.
Right.
Because that's not the case. I mean, there's always going to be that one that goes and runs 100 yards
Absolutely.
on a death run.
It's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen.
I mean, they're still an animal, and they kind of have control over themselves, right? But with that said, and Bean will back this up. Anybody that shot them very much and taken a large number of animals with them will tell you, I see faster kills with the hammer than I ever saw with anything else I ever ran. The amount of tracking that gets done after impact, or the distance traveled after impact. What's 40 call that? Shot to drop distance, whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, that distance is greatly reduced with the hammers compared to anything I've ever run. And our guys in Africa, the trophy game safari that we work with, they're they make a living shooting animals, right? So they see thousands of animals get shot, and they see all kinds of bullets that come around, and there's a reason that they only run hammers in their rifles. And in fact, they give a discount. They give a discount to people that show up with hammers because they have less tracking, right? Any time spent tracking is money lost, right? You're in business. Time is money, and spending time tracking an animal that didn't expire as quickly as it should is money lost. And now you got to go get more people and spend time out there looking for this animal that should have been dead. And so those guys, they're invaluable to us. Most of us here in North America just can't fathom the numbers of animals. We get to shoot a handful of animals a year, right? And it's really a kind of a drop in the bucket to make a very good, or you want to say, judgment on what a projectile does, right?
Right. Yeah. You just got a larger sample size.
It's a small sample size, exactly.
Right.
So our friends in Africa and 40 in Australia, the sheer numbers that they get to encounter, that's where you can go, all right, there is something different here.
There's a bunch of guys. Well, there's a crowd of guys down in Tasmania now helping 40 test bullets. They've been there a week and they've killed 400 animals so far.
Yeah.
So, Steve, let's talk about your. I got this on my list. Let's talk about your African hunt coming up. What rifles are you bringing? Cartridges, and what are you going after?
See that nose?
Well, somebody got scope-eyed.
I got my ass kicked by Jeffrey.
40 said the stock on that thing's all wrong.
A 505 Jeffrey? Or what is it?
Jeffrey? Well, Jeffrey and I right now, Jeffrey's sitting right over here. We got a love-hate relationship going.
Right.
So for this
what cartridge is that?
It's a 500 Jeffrey.
Oh, it's a 500 Jeffrey. Bullet weight.
And so anyway, I built this 500 Jeffrey for this trip because I want to go shoot a Cape Buffalo.
All right.
And actually the plan was to take it to Australia last summer when we went, but that all got kiboshed and we weren't able to take our own guns. So anyway, this trip to Africa coming up May 4th, we're leaving. Going to shoot the 500 Jeffrey on a Cape Buffalo. Got a 450 grain shock hammer. I think I'm done load developing it. But anyway, I got this 450 grain bullet going a little over 3,600 feet per second, or excuse me, 2,600 feet per second, not 2,600. And anyhow, it's a Seiko 995. If you've had any experience with their terrific, big, strong, long action, Seiko doesn't make them anymore, but they're a fantastic action. But they're kind of exclusive to the Seiko stock. The way they mount in and the way the bottom metal and everything is, it's part of the stock. And so I've got a wooden stock coming for it that will wind up inletting for it, but it's not going to get done in time. Well, the drop on the comb on this stock is a little too much for the big recoiling rifle.
Yeah, I know where this is going.
So, and it's funny, our friend Craig called and talked to me the night before I was headed to the range, and talking about getting hit with a scope and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I've been touched a couple times with a rifle. I've never really been hit with one before. First dang shot out of this thing stuffed the scope in my eye, or actually in my nose. That's what put this big cut in my nose.
What's a scope?
It's just a 1 to 6.
Okay, so it's a low power LPVA.
Yeah, so I've probably got 6 inches of eye relief on it.
Dang.
You know, and anyway, the drop on the comb brings the muzzle up and the butt down, and it just brings that scope right into my face. And I've never, I really don't enjoy shooting heavy recoiling rifles, but I can.
Right.
I've never had any trouble doing it. So I'm like, I get all patched up with a Band-Aid and get the blood stopped, and I'm like, all right, give me another one. We'll try it again. So, and I've got it. I'm shooting it off of sticks. I was smart enough to know I really don't want to shoot this off the bench.
Nope.
So I'm standing up shooting it off of sticks, and I still can't stop the damn thing from hitting me. So I shoot a second one off the sticks. It hits me again, and I'm like, dang, and I bore sided it, and I'm not hitting a big piece of paper at 100 yards. First shot, Brian says, well, did you hit the paper? I said, hell, I don't know. I didn't even look. Anyhow, so then I'm like, all right, give me another one. I'm going to shoot it offhand. So I set up a target at 25 yards to shoot it offhand to get it on paper. Okay, bend at the waist, right? The damn thing still hit me. I shot it half a dozen times, and I think only one time did I keep that scope from hitting me in the face. And then I was like, I can't shoot it. I'm just not a big enough boy for this. And I told Brian then, I said, if we can't figure out how to get a muzzle brake on this, I can't take it to Africa. There's just no way I can hunt with it.
Can you put a scout scope on it, or that's just too much?
What's that?
Can you put a scout scope on? Can you put an intermediate eye relief or a long eye relief scope on it? So that way the scope's way the hell out in front of you? Or that's just too much work at this point?
Yeah, I think, so I've got a brake on it now.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I'll show you.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Hang on. All right, folks. Sorry about that little pause in the recording there. We're back. Hey, Steve.
Leave it to Steve to break the rules.
No, you're fine. You're good. So, Butterbean, you talked about you want to shoot that. So I'm 5'5", 140 pounds, dripping wet, right? And my buddy had a 505 Gibbs, which is probably about along lines of the 500 Jeffrey, right? I got a video of me shooting that 505 Gibbs, and it's kind of funny. Steve, I don't know what your stature is, but us little guys I could take the recoil because I don't try to fight it, right? I just let it kick me, I just kind of
right
with the punch.
Well,
man,
that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to just roll with the punch, but dang,
yeah, the scope.
It was collapsing me, and I'm about the same size as you, I think all my vertebrae are compressed now. I'm 5'4" on a good day now.
Yeah.
I outweigh a little bit by too much, but yeah, no, I just, that whole, bend at the waist, right? Let the recoil move you. Shit, I started just bearing down into this thing to try, because when I'd let it recoil, it would smoke me.
Right.
So I started trying to bear down into this thing and hang on to it, and I just couldn't stop it.
That drop at comb is killing you because you know what's happening, that it's pivoting, right? It's sliding down your shoulder off your shoulder. Bam! Before you know it, you're eating that scope. So you're new stock, right? Not time for the trip. You're getting a different stock, but it won't be in time for the trip.
Correct.
Yeah. And what's the action in barrel?
So
at the Sacco 9, what is it?
995.
995. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you probably don't want to put a pick rail out in front to put a pistol scope on there or a red dot.
Yeah, no, I don't. No.
Can you put a red dot on it?
I could put a red dot on it.
Put a red dot on it, man. You can still hunt with it.
Home.
Huh? What's that?
Leave it at home.
Steve, put a red dot on it, but bring 2 red dots because it's probably going to destroy the first red dot.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got the muzzle brake on it now, and if I still can't keep the scope out of my face, I'll throw a red dot on it. But I think this is one of Kirby's brakes, the painkiller.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's going to make it manageable.
You're gonna need
But
you're gonna need earplugs and earmuffs. So that sucker's gotta be freaking 75 millimeter howitzer loud.
yeah, it'll be anybody around me is not going to like it.
Right.
But it's on a 45, so it kind of puts the shooter kind of
Oh
in
yeah.
a protective cone. But anybody off to the sides is not going to like it.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
that okay, so that's your big gun. What intermediate I mean, so you're gonna hunt Cape Buffalo. What else you gonna try to kill?
So I only have two things on my list
Okay,
um, that that I want to get on this. The Cape Buffalo, that's the big one. It's my turn to shoot a Cape, uh,
right.
and then I want to shoot a meerkat.
Oh really? That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm bringing my 17 Hornet again.
There
Um,
can you're gonna get a full body mount on one of those little meerkats?
yeah. So I've got a big warthog, right?
Dude,
And,
I
and I
would
want
full
to.
body. Hang on,
I
I'm
want
gonna interrupt you. Bean's gonna like this. I would full body mount that, and then I'd freaking hang it from my truck rearview mirror.
to. So I want to. I want
I'd be
to. I
hanging
want
that around. People would be like looking at me like, "Did you see that?"
to. So I want to put the meerkat on the shoulder-mounted warthog.
Oh, there you
Well,
go.
then I got Timon and Pumbaa, right?
Right. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's why I want to get a meerkat. Uh, and then after that, I'm I don't care. I don't really. I just want to go to Africa. I'm not that. I don't care if I shoot anything that much anymore. I just want to go.
Have you been there
So
before? First trip?
this is number 5.
Oh shoot, you've been there. Okay, you're a veteran of that.
Yeah. So this is number 5. And so my wife and my son are coming along on the trip. I just want to be there when they're getting stuff.
Right.
Um, and my son-in-law, his parents are coming with us on the trip. So that'll their first trip to Africa. So that'll be great. And then a good friend of ours that was best friends with my son that died. He's coming with us on the trip.
Okay.
Um, um, so some people might know or not, but anyway, I have a son that died, um, and that's a big part of why Butterbean is so special to me. But anyhow, uh, he would have been coming on this trip. He was scheduled to come on this trip, so his best buddy's coming because he wanted to go.
Okay. All right.
So
So the folks that aren't learned on traveling to Africa, like I've never traveled out of country, you know, to hunt, right? In fact, Bean, I don't know if you knew this. You ever fly somewhere else to hunt in the United States and have guns?
I have.
So I didn't know this. Like I'm in Ohio, right? And I started hunting hogs down in Alabama and Texas about 10 years ago. Did you guys know this? You can mail with UPS, you can mail a rifle to yourself and you could totally bypass everything.
Yeah, that's how I did it.
I didn't know because the first trip I did, I flew on the airlines. I was like, man, that's the last time I do that BS.
Yeah,
Trying to check in a rifle and
yeah. I've
I
mailed
just
it to
I just
myself.
mail it to myself now.
Yeah. So
we've traveled with the guns quite a bit.
So
I've never had any
that's what I was
trouble.
gonna ask you, Steve. How do you do that to Africa?
Um, so really the only thing different, I guess, about going out of the country is you've got to get permits in that country you're going to, and you've got to get the Form 4457 that allows you to bring your weapon back into the United States. So basically, it's a certificate of origin, saying that that gun was in my possession before I left the country, and proves that it's still mine, and I'm bringing it back. So you've got to go see the uh, basically the Border Patrol to go get that Form 4457 for the weapon that you're taking out of the country. And then like Africa, then I mean we going to Africa, we kind of hire somebody to do this stuff for us because it just makes life so easy. So when we arrive in Africa, we go stay with a the first night we stay at Africa Sky Resort, and they send their guy Gilbert to pick us up at the airport, and we pay them, I think, $150 for each rifle to get the permits. So they take care of the permitting for us, and Gilbert shows up there with all the permits in hand and takes us through the police station, and it's seamless. He comes in waving his paperwork saying, "I'm here." And the last time we went, he was just like, "Okay, everybody stay with me." And he just cut the line, went to the front of the line into the police station. All these guys standing in line with their rifle cases to come hunt in Africa, cuts us to the front of the line. We jump in front of everybody. They look at our guns, and out the door we go. And all these guys wearing hammer shirts, and they're going, and these people are going, who are these people?
Really?
Money well spent right there.
So let me ask you, as an engineer, I used to travel. I got shanghaied twice to go down to Venezuela, right? That's not a travel destination. Venezuela is not a good place to visit, either now or 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Down in South America, everything's payola, right? Everything's bribe. Is it like that in Africa, or is that how he got you to the head of the line, or maybe you shouldn't say?
I can't say for sure, other than it's illegal to bribe. So it's illegal for one of those policemen to take any money from me, and it's illegal for me to give them any money.
Right.
I think back in the day, that's kind of how you got it done. You would kind of slip a little money to them, right?
Right.
Everything would be good.
Right.
With that said, when we get back to the resort, we tip Gilbert handsomely. Right?
No, he does. Something's got to be going on.
I'm pretty sure that Gilbert shares those tips.
Right. Right.
Because there's no way that he could just walk into the police station because he's somebody. He
Right.
walks into the police station because those guys are his buddies.
Right.
Yeah.
And he takes care of them. Right.
Well, that's money well spent. And just get back to when I was in Venezuela, because I was ignorant. I was a young, 24-year-old, engineer straight out of college, and immediately I'm thrust into some third world country, right? My manager said, "Don't forget, any payola, you time and expense that." So I got reimbursed for this.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
good
you see
stuff
me,
right there.
I got my money back, But I tell you what, it is money well spent, because if you were those guys standing in line, right? How long did that take?
Well, we've had, previous years, Gilbert took care of us, but Gilbert didn't have as much relationship as he does now. At least it didn't feel like it, right?
Right.
So we would stand in line, and you might stand in that line for an hour.
Oh yeah.
And so anyhow, it's all been very seamless every time we've gone, but we haven't done our own legwork on getting permits and things like that. It's well worth it. In that first night we stay at the Africa Sky Resort, they bring us in, you've been on an airplane for 17 hours, you're kind of baggy. They have a nice, we get a nice meal, go sit by a fire and drink a little whiskey and just kind of hang out and try to unwind from the travel.
Jet lag.
And yeah, it's just, you're really tired, but you don't feel like you can go to sleep. And then the next morning they pick us up there at the resort, and we're on the road to go to the concession to start hunting.
What's the season right there now when you travel in May? You're going to be south of the equator, right?
Right. So they're opposite of us.
They're flipped. Yeah.
So they're going into fall right now, where we're going into spring. So their winter is their dry season, where their summer is wet. So they don't hunt much in their summertime or in our winter. So they stop hunting around October, and then start hunting March, maybe April.
Where is this?
South Africa.
Yeah, but where specifically?
The Limpopo.
Where's that? What is that?
It's a region. It's north of Johannesburg.
Okay. So you're down there then.
Yeah, so we fly into Johannesburg, and then it's about a 3.5 hour drive north. We could catch another plane up to Polokwane, but I'd rather take the drive. Um, I've had enough of the airplane by then.
Yeah.
So plus, you get a 3 or 4 hour drive north, and you just get to see country. Uh,
Right.
so to me, the drive is interesting. I'd rather do that.
Getting back to the 500 Jeffries. So how many round if you take it, how many rounds you gonna bring? Because you gotta let the other people. Well, maybe not. Maybe you don't want to let anybody else kill themselves like
I'll
you're
let
getting
them.
killed.
Hey, fellas, I hate it, but I'm gonna have to go.
Oh,
Hey,
all
listen,
right.
Butterbean, man, thank you, brother.
I
Best
gotta
luck.
go. I gotta go load and get my day started. Enjoyed it.
All right,
Hey,
enjoy it.
appreciate you,
Hey,
Butterbean. Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna put
Well,
your I'm gonna put Butterbean's YouTube channel and down in the description, man. Hey, I'll see you on Hammertime.com,
yep,
the talk forum.
yep.
Hey, good. Hey, man, I've been reading a lot of your posts too, so I
Well, I'll,
appreciate all the
I'll send you my
information.
phone number if you need anything. Holler, and I'll get a hold of Lynn and tell him is it your APA
Yeah,
APG?
it'll be yeah, it's AP 2020 outdoors.
Okay,
Yeah,
is
just
that
tell
what it
him.
is on LRH?
Yeah, I forget what it is on LRH, but I'll tell you what,
Get
Steve.
that to us.
Yeah, I'll get you my it's tied to my email, which is an old email. Then he'll should be able to fix it up.
Okay, just send it to me and I'll take care of it.
Cool. All right, man. We'll see you. Peace.
See you, Steve. See y'all.
See you,
Thank you.
James.
Enjoyed it.
All right.
Yeah, good to see you.
See you, brother.
Oh, here I can
There
remove you. I gotta
there
remove
he
you.
is.
Okay, I got rid of him. Jeez. I tell you
oh,
what,
that's
Steve, he's a good guy, man. We had when you watch his podcast before you came on, he's definitely got some knowledge. I appreciate that.
I tell you what, he is salt of the earth, and I'll tell you the story now without him here. I'd met this man on the phone and emails just because, uh, his friend Doug down in Texas convinced him to shoot our bullets.
Right,
And so then, he would call, he had questions, and we got, we became friends over the phone, we'll say, right? But I'd never met him in person, didn't know him from Adam, right?
right.
And when my son died, he showed up here at my shop. All of a sudden, there's this big man standing in my door, and he says, "I'm here, put me to work. You got other things to do." And I'd never met this man in person.
He flew
And
from Indiana.
he came out here to come and help me in my shop at that time. And I don't know anybody else that would do that,
Right,
for somebody that he'd never met. He didn't
right,
know me. Um, and he just showed up, and he would give you the shirt off his back, even though he doesn't know you.
right.
He's a gentleman.
He's good people.
Yes.
There's a lot of good. Believe it or not, folks, there's a lot of good people left in this country.
Yeah, and he got that rifle. He's the first one to tell you I don't deserve this.
Right,
I'm just a guy that likes to shoot stuff. And he says all I do is run my mouth, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know anybody else that would have done what you did.
right.
And he says, well, God told me to do that, and I said that's what makes you great.
Yep. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
yeah, no, he's just good folk. You just don't find any guys like that.
No. So that's cool. So
Yeah.
let's see what else, Steve. Man, we definitely broke the record. We are definitely coming up to 2 hours.
So I mean, the trip to Africa, we can talk about that some more. I'm very excited. I get very excited for these trips.
Hey, do you
It
need
seems
a
like I'm more
cameraman
excited
on
for
one of
each
these
trip
trips?
than go ahead.
Do you need a cameraman on one of these trips sometime? You got a videographer? Because hey, man, I know how to run a camera.
Well, we're gonna video my Cape Buffalo. Hopefully, I've got this 500 Jeffrey working so I can use it.
Right.
I wanna shoot. What would be a traditional big game, dangerous game cartridge,
Right.
but fairly untraditional with a 450 grain bullet going pretty fast.
Right.
And so we want to get that on video so we can show, what that kind of impact does on an animal that's traditionally very difficult to take down.
And as you know, with Cape Buffalo, their ribs, people don't realize their ribs are actually shingled, aren't they?
Yeah, they overlap. Yeah. So there is no avoiding bone on a Cape. And their ribs are thick. They're
Right.
Yeah, they're big, thick ribs and they literally shingle over each other and they slip. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so I get more excited with these trips to Africa. More than each, it seems like every time I go, I look more forward to it than the time before.
Right.
And it's not so much the hunting, it is, but it's the people we spend our time with there. It's kind of like going to see family.
Right.
I just really enjoy being there. So yeah, I get real excited about it, and I get very excited about the people that are coming with us to see how much fun they have, with the hunting. It's I call it luxury hunting.
Right.
It's not hard. Anybody that goes to Africa and says, "Oh my God, I never hunted so hard in my life," unless they're out in big country tracking elephant or something, these plains game hunts are pretty easy.
Right.
But they treat you like a king. They take care of it. Basically, Mr. Steve, is there anything you need? Or are you sure everything's all right? Anything we can get for you? Every day you come back to camp and yesterday's laundry is washed and folded on the shelf in your room, and your room is all made up and fresh towels. Food is to die for. Yeah, it's an entirely different experience. Plus, it doesn't cost very much.
Huh.
We can go and do this trip to Africa with airfare and everything for less than you could book a good quality elk hunt in Montana.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Gosh, I figured it'd be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000.
All in. So I would say, a good package, say 7 animals, and your resort, your airfare, incidentals. So everything but, say, taxidermy. And you're going to shoot 7 animals and have the time of your life, and you can be into that for, I'd say, 10 to 12 grand all in.
Wow, that for 7 animals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to kill 7 big game animals in the United States guided.
Right. I mean, Brian and I want to go moose hunting in Alaska in the worst way. But a guided hunt in Alaska now is like 30 grand.
That's crazy.
And you might not get a moose.
Right. That's not guaranteed.
No. So it's just like, it's the price of it, and I look at that, 30 grand. I can take my family to Africa and everybody gets to hunt.
Right. What about, have you done Australia? Is that same way or is it different?
Well, when we went to Australia, and we're going to go again next year, but that wasn't really a guided deal. That was more of a going out with your buddies and going hunting.
Okay.
So I can't speak for hiring an outfit in Australia because I haven't done that.
Okay.
So I just went out with the local boys and went and did what the local boys do.
Okay.
Which was fun.
Oh, I bet it was. I mean, you hear stories
man.
about the outback and the local culture.
Oh yeah, it was. I call it the wild, wild west. There's just so few people there, and all the animals that we were hunting are all feral, right? So any animal there that has a hoof is feral. So
Right.
the water buffalo and the pigs and the donkeys and all that stuff, they're all feral animals. So it's like shooting coyotes or something here in the United States.
Right.
There's no limits. There's none of that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure most of the animals that we encountered, I don't think they'd ever even seen a person before.
Huh.
They just look at us like they didn't know what the heck we were. But it's just so remote. So next time we go, we're going to go to West Australia to go hunt camels. And I guess, they've got a huge camel population problem.
Yeah, it's bad.
millions of camels that they need to get rid of, and so again, you just go shoot camels, and this one's going to be even more remote. I guess we'll have to take a helicopter and fly into a remote camp where we'll stay and then hunt from there. And I haven't seen it yet, but I believe it based on our last trip. They say it's nothing to shoot 100 camels in a day.
Yeah, there's some guy on YouTube. He comes up on my feed. He's a local, and that's all he does on his YouTube channel. He's out there just shooting camels. But he works at he's got a regular day job, but that's what he does. He drives around and he's got his and the vehicles there, they got the steering wheel on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And he's driving around. I mean, he's freaking. He's got his rifle out the window. He's driving. He's just shooting them. So,
yeah.
They're big animals too, man. They're not small by any stretch.
Oh, they're big, and it's so remote. There's really, at least where we're going, it'll be too remote, too hot. There's no way to really recover the meat. I guess they're pretty good eating,
right?
So we'll be able to take some meat that we'll utilize at camp,
right?
But otherwise, it basically gets left to lay because there's just no way to be able to recover it.
Well, they treat them like Texas treats wild hogs, or Alabama or Georgia.
Yeah,
there's just too many of them. I mean, just literally, just too many. Yeah, the closest thing we have in Ohio is we've got way too many deer.
Yeah.
And today's younger kids, they're not hunting like when you and I grew up, right? So we don't have that as many deer hunters as we used to growing up, and we got more deer than we got rabbits. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and that becomes a problem. Eventually they'll wind up getting disease.
Right. Well, that and the road kills.
Yeah.
My wife and I have literally, between my wife and I, we've literally probably hit 20 deer.
Oh
yeah.
So you got a big old bumper, I hope.
No, I mean, it's just like it's terrible. I literally have become my old man. I literally, and when I drive to work in the dark, I literally don't go over 50 miles an hour. I mean, I allow to get to work, 5 minutes later because of that. So
I smoked one with my brand new pickup right after I got it.
Oh, no. Mule deer or whitetail?
Whitetail. I was, and I was in a line of traffic, and all of a sudden they tried to shoot the gap through the line of traffic. There was no missing it.
Right.
And I was only going 50.
Right. What'd that cost?
Oh, insurance covered it, and so I haven't actually fixed it. I'm replacing it with a big custom bumper.
Okay.
So it probably cost me about the same to get the big custom bumper as it would have if I'd have just replaced the factory stuff.
Right. Right.
So I wound up getting, an insurance check for what the repair would have cost for the bumper, and I put that towards a big bumper so that I can just go run over deer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what you gotta do. No, seriously, I thought about that because the guys that have those brush guards, the bull bars, those are bad. Those are damage multipliers.
Yeah.
You hit something with that, it's gonna damage your front end. But the bumper you got is gonna be frame mounted. So, like you said, short of an elephant, you're gonna be good.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's basically short of something that will crush the frame of the truck, I'm good.
Right. Right. So that's interesting. So let me see what else I got on my list here. So let's see, we got everything, pressures. So yeah, so when you watch this podcast, play it back, definitely going to do the pressure thing. We talked about the design. One thing we didn't talk about, I want to mention. So I posted a video.
Hey, Nito, hang on just a sec. I've got to go get a package out here to the FedEx real quick.
Yeah, I'll pause the recordings.
I'm a lone ranger here at the shop today.
No worries. No worries. Did you deepen the hollow point on some of your bullets just recently?
Not very much recently. In the beginning, all we knew is we wanted the nose off.
Right.
And we didn't take into account anything that shed weight would do. We just knew that we wanted a flat, square-fronted retained shank. And over the first 2 or 3 years, we started figuring out that, hey, there's something to this shed weight, and we started paying attention to it, and then trying to optimize how much weight we were shedding.
Right.
And so we wound up varying hollow points a bit, and we went from we started making them a little deeper, and then probably took that a little too far, and then came back a little bit in between where we first started and where we got to. So, when a guy looks at our website, some of the bullets, they'll have a weight listed for the bullet that's different than the name of the bullet. And that was kind of a choice of, I didn't want to change the name of the bullet because we made it a little lighter or heavier by varying the hollow point depth. Because then I'd get a call from somebody going, "Hey, did you discontinue my bullet?"
Right.
I'd rather have the confusion of, "Hey, why does it say it's 181 grains in the name, but it actually weighs 180?" Or, so it seemed like an easier way to go was just to, in the specifications of the bullet, to list the actual weight, as it is, being different than the name, if that's the case.
Right. That makes sense.
So yeah, so over the years, of evolution, and what we're doing, there's been some changes in hollow point depths that have changed the weight of a bullet, maybe, a couple grains from what it was originally.
Okay. One thing, and I've shot enough ballistic gel with the I think it was Hornady that invented the polymer tip, correct?
I don't know.
I think I don't know if it was Hornady or something else. But anyways,
the first tip bullet that I recall ever showing up was the Nosler ballistic tip. And
no, I think you're right. It was a Nosler. It was a plastic, for lack of a better.
I thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread.
Right. So my question to you is, because I've shot enough of polymer tip bullets and gel, right? But the thing that I have a trouble wrapping my brain around is that, and I guess it's probably going to be really simple answers like, "Oh, yeah, I should have known that," is how does that tip come off and doesn't affect the bullet's path in gel or whatever? Is the bullet tip so minuscule and it's on there so I guess, quote, loose, or not loose, but it's so, I don't know, I guess it just breaks off and then the hollow point opens up. You know what I'm trying? If you've done enough testing where you actually had to design, tips to fit the hollow point.
So, and I don't remember if we've talked about this before, but I was very adamant that there would never be a tip on a hammer bullet.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And we tried quite a few times and could never get it to work as good as the open hollow point, particularly at the lower velocities.
Okay.
So tips have inherent issues, and our tip is still a plug in the hole that has to get out of the way in order for fluid to get in the hole and make the bullet open from the inside out.
Right.
Right. So it's a plug in the hole. We've been marketed to forever, that the tip aids in terminal performance. I don't know that that's the case. I still consider it a plug in the hole that has to get out of the way. That bullet, if you take the tip out of it, that bullet will deform more easily than it does with it in.
Okay.
So now, with that said, and this time with the tip, between the material that we're using for the tip and the way we've got the tip shaped and the way we married it to the bullet, we've been able to get rid of those inherent issues that tip bullets have. So one being that tip not evacuating properly to let the fluid in and having a potential failure if it doesn't evacuate. And two, tips are notorious for deflecting on angled bone shots.
Yes.
Where that tip, and we figured this out in the process of our current tip. We tried to run a little harder material in the tip, but then those deflections started to show up. Where the material that we use, we have not been able to get it to deflect on a bone impact. That tip is soft enough that it continues to drive straight and still open evenly. So with that harder material, you would get that angled impact, and the tip material is too robust and will break out one side of the bullet. And
Oh,
because it's breaking out one side, now you're off center, and it'll cause your bullet to deflect.
go yaw.
Yes. And so that's an issue with tips, and we don't have that issue. We've overcome that issue, between the very soft, our copper is very soft, and the way we've married the bevels, we beveled that tip and married that bevel so that we have an exact fit in the nose. There's no gappage in the way the tip is installed into the bullet.
Right.
And so we don't get that breakout on one side, and the material's soft enough that it, I guess, kind of acts like a fluid on its own, where it's soft enough that it drives straight in like the fluid and allows that opening from the inside out.
Okay. So mechanically speaking, if we were to slow everything down, so that tip does not pop off the hollow point. Fluid gets in, opens up the hollow point, and the tip somehow comes out and doesn't impede the original path.
Right. Tip is driving straight in.
Okay.
So when we did impact testing with them, if we get the velocity low enough and recover a bullet, we've recovered bullets with the tip just starting to go inside the nose, but the velocity was too low to actually make it go farther than that.
Right.
But yeah, they're not breaking out to the side.
Okay. All right. I've always wondered because I would see tips in the gel, right?
Yeah.
But nobody could really explain to me how did this tip? Because typically, well, the ones I've seen, not yours, but others, the tips are somehow like maybe, they have to be somewhere typically you get that bloom in the gel, the temporary cavity. Somehow that tip is somewhere like in the middle of that temporary cavity in relation to the entrance wound, right? Like that tip is like not near the exit, obviously, so obviously that tip had to come out somehow. So
yeah, we used to find tips, back in the day before we were making bullets. When we would butcher, we would find the little green tip, when we were butchering. I have yet to find one of our tips in an animal. So I think I don't know. I think it's going on out with it. Or it's just becoming too small to find.
Right. That's interesting. Okay. All right, listen, Steve, you got anything else to add, man? It's we have definitely eclipsed the record.
Well, I showed up an hour late.
No, you're fine. Hey, this worked out perfect. They gave us time for me and Butterbean to get acquainted, and I could pick his brain a little bit, and and then you stepped in. I really did want to talk to you about your African hunt. I was really intrigued by that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about it. It's just gonna be a good time. And so we'll have a wide range of guns. From the little 17 cal up to the big 500 Jeffrey, and got a 36 Nosler and a 300 Win Mag and a 6.5 Beanmore. And let's see, we got a 30-06 going, 300 Weatherby Mag, and a 270 Win.
Right.
So, and they'll all be shooting hammers.
Right.
Of course. Team Hammer, right? So I got shirts getting made up, say Team Hammer on the back.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
They're gonna be custom Africa 2024 or just Team Hammer?
No, just Team Hammer. So, but the only people that are getting these Team Hammer shirts are on this trip.
Right, right. So it'll be unique to that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
And so, yeah, there'll be a wide range of stuff shot from Cape Buffalo to, there's likely might be an eland in the group, and kudu and
Those are elk-sized game.
kudu are spectacular. Yeah, they're top of my list. They're just beautiful animals. The long spiral horns,
Right.
And big elk-sized. They call them the gray ghost because they just disappear. They're silent. They're fun to hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, folks. This is Nito with AP2020 Outdoors. Once again, it's always great talking to my buddy Steve Davis with Hammer Bullets, and obviously we spoke with Butterbean earlier. But remember, support that Second Amendment. Stay based. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.